Barcelona. Everywhere we went, they were rubbing wheels and banging wheels, and Max was just hungry as hell, and he was fighting, fighting hard. And then there was, a big crash at Silverstone that heightened tensions, as well. And then in the background, we're stealing all their staff on the engine project. So Toto's getting pretty excited, as well at this point. So we come through the year, and both drivers ended up, you couldn't have written it. If Netflix had made it up, you would have said, no, forget it, that's never going to happen. So we ended up in the last race, tied on points, but Max had more wins. So if they crashed, Max would be the champion. So Mercedes came to the race, and I think they were convinced that we were going to drive into them. So they came with the lawyers and barristers and so on, and we went into that weekend. Max qualified on the pole, but Lewis made the better start at the start of the race. And at the chicane at the end of the first lap, Lewis went straight on through the chicane, and we thought he got an unfair advantage. He was told to give time back, but he didn't give the position back. And so we were feeling that we were hard done by. So we were upset with the race director at this point, but Lewis, had the race under control, and on normal circumstances, he had a faster car on that day. And then Checo came into play, and we discussed in the morning, if he could play a role, in helping to help his teammate, he was a fantastic team player that day. He managed to cost Lewis enough time that suddenly Max was within his pit window again. But Lewis hadn't, he was on a one-stop strategy, but he had the race under control. And I'm starting to think on the pit wall, what am I going to say to the team? How am I going to lift them up? It just felt like...
So in your head at this stage, it's over.
Yeah, at this point, I'm thinking, I'm going to have to pick all these guys and girls off the floor. We've given it everything this year. We've gone to the last race, and they're going to walk away with the constructors and the drivers at the last race. And I'm thinking, what am I going to say to them? It was a point where Sky had a link to the pit wall, and Martin Brundle, called me up, and he's like, well, this is going to take something special to happen here. And I said to him, look, Martin, I think we're going to need something from the racing gods today, because it looks like it's going Lewis's way at the moment. And I had no idea I had a direct line, that somebody was listening, because Nicholas Latifi then crashed his car. He's now got a lifetime supply of Red Bull. And it wasn't a massive incident. It was an incident that looked like they could get it cleaned up. The marshals in Abu Dhabi are some of the best in the world. The driver was okay, the car was safe. And so then you've got that strategic moment. What do you do? Now, if you're the lead car, if you hold position but you're on used tires, you're going to be exposed. So it's a ballsy thing to pit from the lead and concede position. So, but it weighs in your favor if you do. Mercedes decided to stay out.
You got, what, 5 laps?
You got 5 or 6 laps to go. We pitted Max onto a brand new set of soft tires. So all that's got to happen is the race to get going again, and you've then got a hell of an advantage just in the tire grip. Lewis's tires were over 40 laps old. They're going to be hard to heat up and get going again versus a brand new set of qualifying tires, basically. And it was at a time where you could call up the race director. So of course everybody, all season, this was big on.
You used in principle.
So yeah, all that year, and it was being publicised. So of course we're putting pressure. As with my job leading the team is, come on, we've got to get this race going. The track it's clear, it's safe, it's the car's over the barrier. What are we waiting for? And the race director originally, wasn't going to let the lap cars to unlap, which is the regulation. And then he allowed the lap cars to unlap, all bar 2 cars that weren't actually in the race. Now, he's the referee. It was unorthodox because it hadn't been done before, but he could do that. So, and the reality was he had plenty of time for all of them to unlap. It wouldn't have made a jot of difference. So then, you know, we're going into one lap of racing, and Max is fired up, and Lewis is, you know, you can see he's looking in his mirrors and he's tentative.
His tires are going.
His
Max's
tires
on
are cold,
point.
and so on. What we didn't know, and what Max told us after the race, was he got cramp in his right leg, so he couldn't feel the throttle, you know, and he's desperately trying to wiggle his toes and get his circulation going again. So anyway, they go for the restart, and you know, suddenly Max sends it into the hairpin. We didn't expect him to pass that. Usually, it's at the end of the straight into the chicane, and I think Lewis was trying to get the best line he could onto the straight to defend that. But Max has sent it, and he's like, whoa! And I, you know, was keeping my emotions under control at the time. There was a camera that's facing me, and you know, I've lost it at this point. I'm thinking, shit, you know, this is it. If we can hang on here, you know, this is a world championship. And then they have to come down the first straight, and Lewis has got the faster car on the straight. He pulls alongside. They go into the chicane. Max goes in a bit deep, but manages to keep the position. He holds it out the next straight. Lewis is alongside again. And you're thinking, come on, you know, if we just get around the next left, that's it. And anyway, he made it, and then we win the race. And then, wow, it just went bananas. All this emotion of the season, you know, seeing him win his first world championship after the fight that we'd had all year, you know, just that elation of winning. Oh, man, it was incredible. It was incredible.
What a great story. Thank you. I mean, I'm gripped with you telling us that. Thanks for sharing that. What a treat. What a treat to hear it. Do you remember